Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Alex Dworkin and I'm a managing partner at 40 Capital. We specialize in a very unique mathematical approach to the stock market where we calculate the market and individual stocks in three-dimensional space. And when we do, perfect order emerges. And on top of that, we've developed a number of timing parameters over the years. And when we combine both, we can very often predict exactly what any underlying equity or overall stock market will do in both price and time, and we can typically do it on multiple time frames. I personally believe our work is nearly identical to what Jim Simmons was able to accomplish at Renaissance Technologies, if you're familiar with Jim. Now, our primary objective is to find stocks that will increase in value 2x, 5x, 10x, and more. So we're essentially always looking for the next NVIDIA, Apple, Bitcoin, Tesla, Microsoft, and so on. And we do so by essentially analyzing the entire market. We have the capability to scan the entire market, run our three-dimensional calculations on the entire market, and then pick out stocks that are about to put in major bottoms. Doesn't really matter the industry, whether it's a tech stock or something else. And then we are able to project from that bottom how far or how much higher that stock is going to go. And we're looking for only the best and safest opportunities that are once again expected to increase quite dramatically going forward. So in essence, as this headline says, we're looking for the next stocks like Apple, like Bitcoin, like Tesla, and so on. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at one of the defense stocks. This is going to be part of our super equities slash fast movers, and the stock in question is Lockheed Martin, LMT. And I find this stock of particular interest at this juncture because it is saying something about our geopolitical situation that perhaps will clarify what's going to happen over the next couple of months, particularly with this meeting with Putin and Trump meeting, I believe, tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to come back to this forecast and see whether or not our stock market work actually predicted what will happen in the real world. So basically, the bottom line is Lockheed Martin is bottoming out very soon. It's moving into this major bottom right here, and once this major bottom is achieved, it's going to increase quite dramatically into this mid-cycle top, and then subsequently into this particular top. Actually, I'm sorry, this, before we get there, this particular major cycle top is still ahead of us. So what it's saying essentially is that we're going to have quite a dramatic increase from this particular bottom to this particular top. This is one of the fast mover requirements that we've discussed in the past, and fast movers are stocks that have a very small amount of time between a major bottom and a major top, or vice versa. And this is a textbook example of this particular situation. So what the stock is saying overall, and I'll get into details and the price projections and the time projections in a second, but what the stock is saying overall is that it's going to put in the major bottom here, and it's going to surge higher in a pretty violent fashion into this top scheduled for sometime in 2026. Now, these kind of moves don't happen all the time, but when we see such a structure, it's typically indicative of that this particular move will indeed develop. So the triangles you see, we're getting a lot of new subscribers and people following us, so I'll just explain this for the people who are not familiar. The triangles you see at the bottom and the top of the chart are variants of Hurst cycles, but a lot more complicated. And we call them cycle composites. And this is a very simplistic visual representation of very complex mathematical set of equations that scans this market and then picks those cycles out and projects them into the future. Okay? So basically what we found in our work is that the down composites are responsible for putting in major bottoms, whether we're talking about the overall stock market or individual stocks, as you can see very clearly here on the chart. And the top composites are responsible for putting in major, tops, depending on the length of the cycle you're looking, because we can break them down into a 5-day cycle, even intraday cycles. So depending on the time frame you're looking at. So what makes matter a little bit more complicated, there are typically multiple composites running in any given stock or the overall stock market. So I always use Dow Jones as an example. So Dow Jones has two bottom composites and two upper composites running at the same time. But if we put them together, we can come very close to the actual stock market chart that you see on a two-dimensional time and price chart. Okay, so that's variable number one. These particular bottoms, depending on the length of the cycle, will give us, let's say, 1 to 2 month margin of error associated with them. But the lines you see on the chart, we call them cycle clusters. And basically, cycle clusters are also a very simplistic representation of a very complex set of mathematical calculations that we run on any particular stock. And what happens is that we have a proprietary cycles, and we scan the chart back, we identify those cycles, and we project them into the future. And what we found over the years is that typically stocks don't top or bottom when any particular cycle arrives. They usually do so when multiple cycles arrive at the same time. Okay, so we have, for example, 3, 4, 5 cycles hitting on the same day, particularly if those cycles are very strong cycles. Rest assured that we're going to see an important turning point there. But if one cycle, two cycle arrive, maybe, but depending on the short-term composition of the stock at that particular time, but usually it doesn't really do that much. So where composites get us into the neighborhood, basically cycle clusters give us the exact date of the projected bottom. So in this case, it is indicating that November 14th is going to be the bottom for Lockheed Martin. Now, this is an analytical composition in a free medium, so to speak. We do what we call targeting analysis when we actually look at the individual stocks. So I'm just giving you ballpark figures is what I'm trying to tell you. But in the neighborhood, as you very well understand. So the question becomes, well, where is going to be the bottom, and then how far is the stock's going to run up after that? So the green dots you see on the chart here are three-dimensional calculations, and each one represents a possible target. Well, all the green dots represents all possible targets for the stock at this particular time. So this region right here, with a lot of them coming together around $350, $340, $320 a share, is a very good indication that the bottom is going to arrive around this region. So let me close this chart and go back to yet another representation of our three-dimensional calculations. Once again, same thing, but a different representation. And as you can see, I'm not going to zoom in, but these particular region are indicating once again where the bottom is going to be. So it has a couple of possibilities. I don't want to give you an exact number because then people look for that specific number while things change a couple of months down the road, and perhaps the price was adjusted plus or minus $5 on the back end within our service, but you don't know about it, and you look for that particular target, and that particular target doesn't arrive. So this is consider this a ballpark figure of where the bottom is going to be. So if we click on the region, it is going to be $345 plus or minus $15, $20, which will incorporate that entire region. Okay. Now, so thereafter the question becomes, okay, well, if it bottoms there, and you already have the date, the approximate date, let me mention it, where is it going to go after that? And that's the beauty of our analysis. That's the beauty of our very powerful software. We're able to pick this bottom, and not only that, we're able to calculate from that bottom exactly where that stock is going to go in the future. And that's the output that we're getting. So it's a little bit, once again, it's for our internal purposes only. This particular software is not developed for consumers. So we know what that means, but let me just very quickly explain some important points about it. Basically what it's saying is that once it bottoms, it's going to run up to at least here, but this very dark region is a very high probability output that this region will be hit, and possibly even higher. So from, let's say, $350 a share to $850 a share within a relatively short period of time, as I've indicated on the previous chart, because it could be a fast move higher, is a very good indication of what this stock is going to do going forward. So that's one of the ways that we're able to find these opportunities. So this one is, let's say, 2x, but we can scan the entire S&P 500. We can find the situation, and we can say, okay, which stocks will increase 5x, 10x, and so on and so forth. And that's how we are able to identify these fast movers, these super equities, as we call them, that will not only will put in a significant bottom, but will also increase quite dramatically going forward. So what does that mean? But let me just, one final note about this particular analysis is that these are general numbers, as I mentioned. So don't hold my feet to the fire in terms of this, because as I mentioned, we do targeting analysis, and when we do targeting analysis, we typically yield much more accurate numbers, because that's when we decide whether or not we do the trade, and we use short-term composition of the market or any particular stock in order to identify exactly where that particular stock will top or bottom. But speaking in generalities, this is a pretty good analysis, because you know the stock is coming to the bottom, you know the approximate time frame. I got you within a couple of weeks, and then I got you within a couple of dollars, and then you know subsequently where the stock is going to go going forward. So what does that mean for the our macroeconomic environment, and particularly our geopolitical situation with Russia and Ukraine, US, and NATO and war? I find this of particular interest. So what it says basically is that because the bottom is coming relatively soon, I would expect to hear a lot of positive news, or I should say probably positive spin, coming out of the meeting between Putin and Trump in Alaska that's going to happen tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of good news. They're going to say probably going to shake hands, said, we've come to a conclusion that the war is over, and so on and so forth. But according to this particular stock, it is only one sample. I understand we haven't looked at the defense industry as a whole, but it is basically saying that once the bottom occurs in this particular stock, it will increase quite drastically, and that typically means war and more war, and that doesn't bode well for the geopolitical situation. So I think they'll come out and say they've made a deal, everything's great, but a couple months down the road, once the bottom occurs in the stock, things will go sideways, to say the least, and the stock will begin to appreciate quite drastically, quite significantly, and we'll see an all-out conflict, perhaps between NATO and Russia. Perhaps limited still at this time. Those who follow our World War III forecast that we've been incredibly accurate about since about 2010 will attest that our dates are a little bit further in the future in terms of the nuclear exchange occurring, but the war itself will continue to get worse, particularly after this bottom arrives for Lockheed Martin. That's it pretty much for the stock analysis. We do have a number of, I have a number of things I wanted to mention. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We do daily analysis of individual stocks, the overall market, and so on and so forth. In the description of the video, you will see a couple of things. You'll see a more definitive description of our work, our calculations. You can click on that link and go down the rabbit hole. You'll see proof. You'll see how we calculate the market in three-dimensional space, and you can essentially try to replicate it, and perhaps for some of the stocks that you analyze. And I think it's going to be quite helpful. We also have a webinar coming up next Friday, August 22nd. The last one was very successful. This one is limited to 10 people, so if you would be interested, please do sign up as soon as possible. We still have a few spots left. But the biggest selling point of this particular webinar, not only do we do an overview of our work and how we calculate the market, we also take a look at our software, and but the biggest selling point is that we do an analysis of the overall market. I typically try to keep that away from putting it out there. This is our bread and butter. But we'll do it during the webinar. So if you're interested in learning what the overall stock market is going to do, I do highly encourage you to sign up and do so as soon as possible. We still have a few spots left, but I think they're going to go pretty soon. And finally, we do have a free trial associated with our service, and it is absolutely amazing, mind-boggling. We have stocks that will increase, 2x, 5x, so on and so forth to the wazoo. We have fast movers, we have super equities, we have mega cap stocks, we have the overall market analysis. So if you're interested in any of that information, do sign up. It's 30 days free. We don't have any strings or credit cards, requests, anything like that. So that's it pretty much for today. I believe we'll be back tomorrow with another fast mover, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.